First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not letting my father into my flat so he slept in his car? I haven't had contact with him since my early childhood. After the separation of my parents, he had a right to see me every second weekend, but he often forgot me or brought me back early because he had other plans, other women, alcohol. After a while, a court ruled in my mother's favor because she couldn't see me being sad and feeling rejected 2 times a month, and we didn't have any contact since then. His drinking problem was also a reason for the court. I moved really far away from home to study. Last week, my father knocked on my door. I have contact with some of his sisters, my aunts, and wrote them cards so he got my address from them. When I opened, I felt so shocked, sad, and angry. He wanted to talk to me, and he pushed himself into my flat. I told him that I don't want him here, and that I don't want to talk to him right now. My boyfriend came from our living room, and he saw how stressed I felt. He told my father to leave our flat because he was not invited. I said to him that he should write me a letter if he has something to say, and I will read it. He said that he drove all the way to my flat, at 7 hours from my hometown, and because of the pandemic, he can't stay at a hotel. I said that he should have thought about it before not expecting to sleep by me. I closed the door. He kept yelling and ringing, but I didn't answer or open the door. My aunts called me angrily 2 days after because he had to sleep in his car. They called me an a-hole for not allowing him in my flat and that I didn't talk to him. I'm not sure if I'm an a-hole. As a child, everything I ever wanted was a caring dad. But as an adult, I learned very painful to give that dream up and be happy without a father. It was too much seeing him without any warning. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Him blowing up and hammering on your door is all I needed to know for that judgment. I would not want some aggressive bloke I don't know stay in my house, even if I did own some of his jeans. It's also ridiculous to drive 7 hours to see someone without calling/writing first, especially because of the COVID. Even if you are good friends with a person, it's common decency not to foist yourself on someone else. He needs to grow up. This, not a a-hole. He is literally a stranger. A strange man who is aggressive and pushed his way uninvited into your home. And you're supposed to let him sleep in it while you're sleeping and vulnerable? Hell no, you're not a a-hole. Not a a-hole. You don't owe him anything. He clearly knew you didn't want to see him, or he'd have given you warning he was coming. Exactly what I was thinking. If he really wanted to talk to you and meant things, he would have contacted you before appearing on your doorstep unannounced, Dopey. That basically tells me that he didn't have good intentions, and the way he reacted to you not allowing him in your flat just cements that. I don't know what he wanted, but I'm pretty sure he didn't have your best interest at heart. Not a a-hole. Not a a-hole. No one could just show up out of nowhere and expect to sleep in your place. Also, why didn't he contact you? Seems like he wanted something from you. I'm glad your boyfriend was there to help you and you stood strong. Good luck, and don't let people get to you and try to guilt trip you. There's COVID, I can't sleep in a hotel. Yet drives 7 hours cross country at the drop of a hat. He definitely had some ulterior motive. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not asking my dad to let my stepsister stay for a few nights? I, 15 female, have divorced parents. My mom is remarried and her husband has a daughter the same age as me, and we've been a step family since we were both 7, but we have also never been close. Not even a little. The only time she ever wants me is when she wants some of my stuff, and I don't really want her for anything. So even though we both live in the same house sometimes, she lives with her dad and mom while I split time between my parents. We're not really in each other's lives, unless she wants something. Anyway, my mom and her husband were traveling out of state last month for a few days to see his best friend who was terminally ill. They didn't want to take my stepsister with because she was getting some in-person tutoring as well as distance schooling, and so they wanted my dad to take her for the few days. My mom asked me to ask him, and I told her no. This pissed her off, and when she asked him, he told her no as well. She asked me again and again, so I told her I wouldn't ask and why I wouldn't ask. My mom lectured me about the importance of family and stuff, and then she ended up getting a friend of hers to take her in for the few days. But she and her husband were super pissed because then they of course had to pay. Which I think sucks, that they expect my dad to take in some strange teenager for nothing and open his house to a random tutor during COVID. But you know, it's still an issue, and my mom told me whatever issues we have, we're family. I told her she, stepsister, and I do not like each other, nor care about each other. That does not make a family. and that trying to force the issue or pretend things are different are not going to change anything. My mom said one day I might need her, and I told my mom I have so many people I would turn to, and that even if I didn't have them, I do not see myself ever looking to stepsister for anything. She then goes off that it's a horrible thing to say, and I was a selfish brat for not asking my dad to take her when things are already so uncertain with COVID and her dad's friend dying. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole, and kudos on being able to express that so clearly to your mom. And why can't a 15-year-old stay home alone for a few days? Not the a-hole at all. Your stepfather and stepsister were your mother's choice, not yours, and most definitely not your father's. You and your stepsister are not close and never have been. Your mother expecting you to play a happy family because it makes her life easier is ridiculous. It was wildly inappropriate and entitled for her to involve your father, who has no responsibility for your stepsister. From where does she get the balls you insist that you ask your father for this ridiculous favor and try to make it seem like you're in the wrong? Did she really think that her ex would open his home to her stepchild and do so without payment? Your mother is dead wrong here. Apparently, she has this idea that because her stepdaughter and I are sisters, that my dad should do his best to be open and involved in her life too. Which is so damn weird to me. But hey ho, maybe my dad should be paying support for her or something in my mom's mind. There was a similar issue on my 10th birthday because my dad had me that weekend that day, and he was taking me and my two best friends out, and my mom wanted him to take her too, and pay for her. That is ridiculous. Your father has nothing to do with her new family, and she needs to stop trying to make her ex responsible for her stepdaughter. She also needs to stop putting you in the middle and stop trying to force a relationship between you and your stepsister. Good luck. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my adult cousin that his biological father was a sperm donor when his parents would not? My cousin, Pete, is 10 years younger than me and is my stepdad's brother's son. He moved to college in the same city in which I was living. Pete received a full scholarship to an Ivy League school and was the first in his immediate family to go to college, but he had liberal politics and studied evolutionary biology, which was threatening to the conservative evangelical Christians who raised him. He received no financial support from them and argued with them or didn't speak to them for months. At the end of his first year, Pete asked to stay with me and my husband during the summer while Pete worked. He stayed that summer, and the next two too. We became very close. At the start of his junior year, Pete needed more money and became a sperm donor. He called his parents asking for family medical history. He told them why he was asking. They were unhappy, but did not dissuade him. During the next year, Pete had bad fights with his father. Pete's father asked him for money. Pete's parents gave their own savings to the church. My stepdad thought that Pete's dad had diagnosed manic depression. His wife, Pete's mother, was passive and did not intervene in how her husband treated their son. I did not know Pete's parents well. Interactions I had with them were restrained because of his father's open judgments on others. Pete was increasingly distraught about his family. Connection with his father was always hard. He is intelligent, well-read, well-traveled, multilingual, and open-minded. His father is not. Pete told me that he was ready to stop talking with his father. At the end of the third summer when he lived with us, he came back upset from his annual short trip back home. His father was so mad about Pete's application to an evolutionary biology PhD program that he had thrown a Bible. In the year prior, my stepdad told me that Pete was donor-conceived. Only a few in the family knew, and his parents didn't want him to know. My stepdad's brother had an irreversible vasectomy after an earlier marriage. His mom wanted a child, so they used a sperm donor, and Pete is his mom's only child. I told him, and he was elated. When he called his parents, they denied it before admitting it. His parents were very angry with me for telling him, but I believed that Pete should know true familial medical history. I also believed that this information might explain his emotional distance from his father in a way that could be healing. Pete was grateful that I told him, but his parents hate me for it. He found his donor's family through genetic testing, and he has formed a close bond with his biological family. The shared interests and attitudes between Pete and his paternal biological family are much greater than those between Pete and the family of the man who raised him. Now for the comments. I say not the a-hole, especially in light of his parents' antagonistic attitude towards his education and the possibility of mental instability. A normal person would be concerned about the possibility of having a genetic mental illness and want to be aware of the possibility of inheriting it. You've given your cousin peace of mind regarding mental health/medical history, and he has a right to know, in my opinion. The relationship is not a reason Pete needs to know. Medical history is. Everyone has an absolute right to know their medical history as much as possible. Not a-hole. It wasn't exactly your place to tell him, but given the circumstances, I don't feel like it is appropriate to call you an a-hole. His parents are horrible, especially for not telling him his medical history, so I think you get a pass because of that. I also feel your justifications for their strained relationships don't really line up. The parents are just a-holes. Not a-hole. I'm donor conceived and was lied to about it. If you had continued to lie, you would have been a party to it. He would have found out eventually, by his blood tests, seeing an eye color chart, doing a DNA test for fun, etc. Not to mention the fact that so many people knew and were lying to him. Good for you for not being a party to that. I'm donor conceived too. It's so rare to find another one of us in the wild. Added to add, I've always known too. My mom was a single mother, so the who's my dad questions came very early for me. For the last story. Am I the a-hole for yelling at my husband, then leaving him at the clinic after his prank? Me, female 28, and my husband, male 34, have been married for a year. Before I met him, I got a dog named Ollie, a German Shepherd, that was originally my sister's, but she passed away, and I immediately took him to live with me. My husband adores Ollie, and he sometimes jokes that he's married to me only because of Ollie. He likes making jokes and doing pranks, but some of them are downright nasty. He'd always get me worried by lying saying Ollie ran off when he was hiding him in a place I didn't know about. He knows how much worried and stressed out those pranks make me, but he says my reaction is priceless and worth the yelling/lashing afterwards. Ollie needed to be taken to the veterinary clinic for a checkup. My husband said he'd handled it. During the second visit to get the results, I received a call from my husband, and his voice sounded like he wasn't okay. I asked what was wrong. I got really worried after he said it was about Ollie. I was starting to shake. I kept asking what was going on, and he told me that Ollie's been diagnosed with cancer. He said he wanted me to come over to the clinic as soon as possible because Ollie was with the vet. I couldn't stand. I started asking, is that why Ollie lost weight lately and such? I rushed to the clinic and found my husband standing near the entrance with Ollie. First thing I noticed was him laughing hysterically, telling me that I really bought into his lie. I was confused, so he said it was just a prank. Ollie's perfectly healthy and handed me the results to check. After I checked, I lost it. I lashed out at him. Not gonna lie, I called him awful names, and his face suddenly turned red like he didn't expect me to react that way. He argued that I made it a big deal. Obviously, it was being mean to him over a prank that didn't even last an hour. I kept lashing out and didn't give him a chance to keep talking. Then I took Ollie and the keys and left. I arrived to the clinic in a taxi. I left him at the clinic while me and Ollie went home by car. 3 hours later, he came back and was upset. He usually laughs even in serious situations, but this time it didn't. He argued that I shouldn't have left him like that, and that I overreacted. Said I was trying to make good memories to look back on and laugh at, but I was unnecessarily overreacting. He stopped talking after that. Just wanted to mention that this started months after his father's passing. His family said he never mentions his dad, nor keep anything of his, although they were very close. I never met his father, but they told me he wasn't suffering from anything, and his death was sudden, and my husband had a hard time processing it. This could be the reason for his behavior. Not a-hole. This isn't a prank. This is abuse. He wanted you to feel like your beloved dog was dying. For his amusement. He laughed at your pain. Even him hiding the dog and saying he'd run away is unbelievably cruel. His words aside, I think he's jealous of Ollie. Forget leaving him at the clinic. You should consider leaving his lying, cruel butt entirely. Yes, you're right. I don't know why he keeps joking about serious stuff like that. He once lied to his friend group about their friend dying overseas. Half of the group isn't talking to him anymore because he lied about their close friend's death. It scared them, and it was highly inappropriate, but he kept trying to justify that it was a prank. I don't know why he thinks any of this is okay. I've already warned him and told him to not get all involved in his pranks, but it took me to lose my temper to get him to realize that what he's doing was unacceptable. Wow, that's so incredibly out of line, unimaginably cruel, and legitimately disgusting. He said someone died. Why does it do it? Some people have personal issues that manifest as self-destructive tendencies. That's the most generous read on this situation. The other is that he's a sociopath, utterly lacking in empathy, and enjoys causing distress. Either way, the why doesn't matter. He doesn't care about his why. He's having fun and enjoying himself, causing deep heartbreak and trauma to people. What will it take for you to have enough? Will it take him calling your parents and telling them you died as a prank for the memories? Or maybe he will just tell them that you have cancer. He has a pattern of destructive behavior. It doesn't even sound like he recognizes that much, let alone be willing to change. I'm seriously concerned for you and Ollie. He literally sounds like a monster. The dog you adore ran away. Kidding. No, I actually took it to the vet, and the vet says it has cancer. Not really. Christ, what a nahal. Say this. Sweetie, I apologize for overreacting. I love you. Kidding. Get the hell out. Not nahal. Opie should have told him leaving him at the vet was a prank and he was overreacting. Jesus freaking Christ. I hate people like Opie's husband. Is he 12? Wait, that's offensive to 12 years old. Opie, I'm not issuing any judgments because I'm concerned. Your husband sounds like he's escalating. I would get the dog out of the house if possible. Good memories? That makes my skin crawl. Remember the time you thought your beloved pet was dying? Haha, good times. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get it. Am I the a-hole for what I said to my sister after she insinuated I should sell a car and give her money? I am 48 years old, married but child-free by choice. It's something my wife and I agreed on early in our relationship. We both have pretty good jobs and are able to afford many expensive items and activities. I attribute this to our jobs, obviously, but also the fact that we are child-free and live in a one-bedroom apartment. I own a manufacturing plant that was given to me from my father. On that property, I store 4 classic cars that I have bought/restored. I have always been a car guy, and I plan to buy another car in the next year too. I have one sister who is younger than me and never made the best decisions in life. She has a boyfriend who she lives with after getting divorced twice. She's also in her late 40s, and she has 2 kids who already seem smarter than their mom. She makes an okay living, but she's the breadwinner while her boyfriend that she lives with spends most of his time stoned and playing Xbox. He's always looking for a new job or blaming the capitalist system for him not having a job. Her daughter 10 is a very good singer. I don't have an ear for talent, but to me she's very good. My sister has wanted to enroll her in lessons with a private coach but cannot afford it. Sister has asked me to help her out, since she is embarrassed to ask our parents and she also does not speak to the father of her daughter. I declined politely, until she made a comment about my money and cars. Just another must-be-nice comment that I'm all too sick of hearing. Now, here is where I made my a-hole comment. I said, maybe if your boyfriend can put down the dope for all of 10 minutes, he can help you out. And I have 5 cars, I'll buy another 5 before I give you a dime. I said her daughter isn't my responsibility. She's got a mother and a father. If they can't figure it out, it doesn't fall on my shoulders. My sister called my wife and told her how mean I was to her. My wife now wants us to give the money, but I don't want to. Sure, we can afford it, but I'm not in my sister's welfare. Last bit, I'm sure some of you will make a comment about how I refer to her daughter, not my niece. Well, they live in another state and have for the entirety of her life. I don't see my sister nor her kids much at all, so I don't really know her kids too well. I send them birthday and Christmas gifts, but I'm not close with them. Edit, this is coming up a lot in comments. My sister could have had a stake in the business, but she didn't want to work there. I worked for my dad all my life and learned a business, but she never did. She knew she wouldn't be getting anything with it, and she was okay with that. I also have given financial support to her before. Now for the top comments. Some people here are missing this piece. I declined politely until she made a comment about my money and cars. Just another must-be-nice comment I'm all too sick of hearing. Bolded is my emphasis. So it's been years of making snide and passive-aggressive comments by the sister. The sister that is too ashamed, or too chicken, or just maybe, has depleted the parents' money train because of her constant begging. Maybe she's made too many snippy comments to the parents too, and they've finally had enough. Now, if she'd been nicer all these years, Opie probably wouldn't hesitate to help out. Opie took on the family business. Opie has made it a continued success. Opie made personal choices that resulted in having a comfortable life. Nobody is obligated to help raise or fund their siblings' children. Sister seems to have a habit of making not-so-smart life choices. That is not Opie's problem. Could Opie have been nicer? Less insulting? Sure. But even the most patient people finally have enough. And that's what this sounds like. Not the a-hole. My brother's ex-wife does this every time my mother gives him something. My mother gave him her old car instead of trading it in when she got a new one, and his ex did the "wow, must be nice" sneer and condescend, and my brother just smirked and said, "It is nice." You were honest about your perspective, and it sounds like your sister needs to get in touch with honesty/reality about herself and others. If she's been expecting other people to take greater care of her and her children than she does, that's unrealistic at best. The articulation may have been frank, but it sounds like she needed, and Opie definitely needed, to have a vivid picture painted. I say not the a-hole. She acts this way because she's one of those nothing is ever my fault people. Next story. Am I the a-hole for removing my daughter's bedroom door because she won't stop slamming it? I, 40 female, have 3 kids. Maggie, 14 female, Levi, 12 male, and Charlie, 10 male. Levi and Charlie share a bedroom, and Maggie has her own room as the oldest and also only girl. Maggie's a great kid. She does her homework, helps with chores without too much complaint, doesn't bug her little brothers too much. The issue is that she will not stop slamming her bedroom door. When she gets up to use the bathroom at night, she slams her bedroom door on her way out and back in. When she gets up in the morning or goes to bed at night, she slams it. Pretty much any time she enters or exits her room, the door gets slammed. And it's only her door, none of the other doors in the house. It shakes the walls and frequently wakes up everyone else in the house. Her brother's room shares a wall with hers, and our bedroom is directly above theirs. We've talked to her about it and asked her very politely to please be more mindful about it because it is disturbing the rest of us. But it's in one ear and out the other. We tried being more forceful about it, saying that if she continues to slam her door, there will start to be consequences. Still, nothing changes. It all came to a head the other night when she got up to use the bathroom and all 4 of us were woken up by the slamming. I have to be up at 5 a.m. for work, and I've had enough of the broken sleep and came downstairs and knocked on her door. She opened it and said, "What?" with such attitude it took a lot of self-control not to start yelling. I told her as calmly as I could that if she slammed that door one more time, she was going to come home and find it gone. She proceeded to yell at me to leave her alone, and then slammed it 5 times as hard as she could. Well, the next day, Friday, she went to school and my husband and I both had a day off, so we took the door off the frame and installed a curtain rod with a nice heavy curtain over the door instead. She came home and freaked the heck out. She said we're being emotionally abusive and taking away her right to privacy. She sulked all weekend and won't talk to us now. My mother says I'm the a-hole because I overreacted, but she doesn't have to deal with the house shaking. I want to add that we completely respect each other's privacy in our house, which is why we hung up a heavy curtain and made sure that we couldn't see through it or around it. We even put little Velcro pieces on the walls and curtain sides so it stays in place. She still has her physical privacy, which she is absolutely entitled to, but can't slam a piece of fabric. We also have never and still don't just go into her room unannounced, and still knock on the wall to ask permission to enter. We've told her we'll happily put her door back on once she agrees to respect the no slamming rule. So am I the a-hole? Added to add. 1. The curtain is an industrial type that blocks sound and light. 2. The curtain is only meant to be a temporary measure. As soon as she agrees to stop slamming and be respectful of the shared space, we will put it right back on. 3. The door isn't broken or malfunctioning in any way, and there is no draft causing it to swing shut. Not the a-hole. Interrupting everyone's sleep is unacceptable. You gave her plenty of opportunities to change the door slamming behavior, and she didn't do it. Let her sulk it out for a set amount of time. Let her know this amount. 1 week, 3 days, whatever you choose, then return the door conditionally for a trial. If she can refrain from slamming it, the door gets taken off again for even more time. Rinse and repeat until she no longer slams. The slamming it a few times in a row was the point where the door had to go. Opie's daughter might not have meant to wake others, but at that point it was teenage spite. My nephew lost his door for slamming it. And when he got it back, he requested padding to help cushion the door. He actually lost the door when he slammed it shut and broke his little brother's foot during an argument. I think that made him feel worse than the actual grounding. My mother would have tanned my hide if I ever slammed a door spitefully, let alone waking up the whole household in the middle of the night. Different times, I know, but kids these days. Not the a-hole. That's what I call checkmate. You're teaching your kid a valuable lesson, that actions have consequences. And she's even able to reverse this decision if she agrees to not slam, which for some reason she won't agree to it. P.S. The curtain was a great touch. I think she'll agree once she's done sulking. She's digging her heels right now because she's a 14-year-old carbon copy of me. Once it goes back on though, I won't even mention the situation again, as long as the slamming doesn't start up again. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my dad he and his wife need to look at themselves for the reason her son is struggling? My dad has me, 16 male, and my brother, 11 male, and our mom died 8 years ago. Dad met Chantal 6 years ago, and they got married 2 years ago. Her son is 10, and my brother and I have known Chantal and her son for almost 4 years now. Chantal's son, Kyle, is an only child, has no dad, no extended family, so he latched onto me fiercely when we met. It was frustrating how he'd insert himself into stuff with my brother. He'd invite himself along, he would try to touch me and hold on to me, and my dad and Chantal told me to allow it and hug him when I'd tell them it made me uncomfortable and annoyed me. Eventually, I started to stop him and tell him not to touch me and not to cling to me. Dad and Chantal realized the three of us hadn't bonded the way they wanted us to. For Kyle. So they insisted on leaving me with both him and my brother and having me babysit them while they left the house. This was during the day and night. Dad would also set up times where I had to take them to the park. So I should bring up my brother and I are close. Like super close. We lost our mom, all 4 grandparents, and our only uncle, though we have aunts, in the space of like 3 years. Losing them made us closer. I was always an affectionate big brother, my mom used to say, and our relationship is so easy and natural that we hug, or I'll ruffle his hair, or he'll sit on me sometimes if he wants something. None of it is forced, and it just kind of happens. Kyle saw a lot of that during the forced babysitting, the forced park trips, etc. And he never got to hang all over me, or be my shadow like he wanted, and I'm not affectionate with him. And it's caused him a lot of trouble dealing with stuff. Chantal was concerned, and so we went to therapy for that. He admitted to being jealous and that he hates my brother, but he also wants me all to himself. He's still in therapy, but he told Chantal that he's never going to be happy not being my brother. Chantal and Dad blamed it all on me. They said I had a responsibility to Kyle to be a good brother to him, and that it was my job as the oldest to look out for him and make sure I was loving him the same as I love my brother. My dad has brought it up a couple of times on his own as well. At the last time, I told him that he and Chantal should look at themselves because they knew Kyle was seriously clinging with me. And they sent him out with me and my brother knowing we're close and have an affectionate relationship, and did nothing to make sure we'd be okay. He told me I should have put my own feelings aside and done what Kyle needed me to do. And Chantal was like, how dare I blame them? And she called me evil for blaming them when I have destroyed her son. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. And yes, it is your father and stepmother's fault. Kyle should have been told that the two of you are brothers. Plus, you've both suffered the same serious losses in a very short time. That means the two of you have a special bond. Kyle needs to be taught his bond with you will be different because of that. And he cannot force it, otherwise that will only drive you further away. And no one should ever be forced to accept affection and clinginess from someone if it makes them uncomfortable. You have the right to pick and choose who's allowed to touch you. I worry about you, to be blunt. In a few years, you're going to be able to live on your own, and you're going to want to have contact with your brother. I suspect your father and Chantal will forbid your brother from coming to see you unless Kyle can go too. Perhaps if you could persuade your father and stepmother into family therapy, the perspective of a qualified professional might help you. I worry about the brother too if Kyle has that much animosity against him and wants him out of the picture. Not the a-hole. Harsh truth time. He is not your brother. He's the child of the woman your dad married and nothing else to you. There is nothing wrong with that. Feelings cannot and should not be forced. Them forcing him upon you is a surefire way to ensure that you will never see him as anything other than annoyance. Why do parents and step-parents on here always think they can force relationships? It's so obviously going to breed resentment and tension and backfire every time. Not the a-hole. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to cancel our honeymoon despite what happened with my brother-in-law? My husband, male 32, and I, female 24, just got married 3 weeks ago, and we are currently celebrating our honeymoon. The plan was to travel for 2 months for different countries of Europe, Asia, and Africa. We currently are in Spain, and we are supposed to take a plane to Morocco in 2 days. However, my husband wants to cut the trip short and go back to our home now. The thing is, his brother is in a horrible situation. His wife and daughter had a car crash, and they're in the hospital. The kid is fine, but his wife has to be a little longer in the hospital. That's all I know. I told my husband that I understand he wants to support his brother, but he's not a doctor, so he can't do anything to help really. And his brother's wife is fine. She probably only has a broken leg or something, and that's why she needs some more days in the hospital. I told him to just call his brother and ask to talk to his wife, so he can send her his best wishes, and that's all that he can do honestly. His parents and his in-laws are helping with the kids, so there's really nothing they need help in. I told him our honeymoon was important, because it's a time for ourselves to enjoy and spend together. He wasn't having any of it. He called me selfish and then he kicked me out of our bedroom. I had to ask for a new one until he decided to let me in again. He told me that he's leaving tomorrow because he needs to be supportive of his brother, and told me I can continue the trip by myself. But that's not the point of a honeymoon at all. I told him so, and he said that if he would have known how witchy I was, he would have never dated me. Am I really wrong here? Doesn't matter how well your in-laws are doing. The only important thing here is that your husband doesn't feel right staying away from his family in this time of need. Your husband is not having fun with you right now. He is not enjoying your company because his mind is elsewhere and he is worried for his brother. Yes, it is 100% wrong of you to ask him to disregard his own feeling just so he can keep you company for your own little sake. You're the a-hole. I agree, but I find it very weird that according to OP, her husband knows what is wrong and is refusing to tell her. She wants to call the hospital and see, but he also doesn't want that. It would get me thinking what was going on, to be honest. I think not the a-hole or everyone sucks here. Unpopular opinion, but not the a-hole. No one died or is on life support from the sounds of it. No major surgeries and the brother has support. I would not expect my brother to cut his honeymoon short to come home, especially if I had several others helping me out already. If someone had died, was near death, or was severely disabled, it would be different. Yeah, my partner had a severe work accident that resulted in him being hospitalized for over a month. His family was there for us, and my parents. I would have been really confused if any of my siblings have canceled a really big trip to come sit at a hospital with us. A phone call and checking in to see how things were going was fine, not the a-hole. Yes, maybe I'm biased because I'm not close to my family at all, but sounds like they're coping and have a solid support network. It sucks it happened, and it sounds traumatic, but FaceTime is a thing. Also, on the flip side, if I was in a wreck and ended up needing to spend a week or two in the hospital, I would not want my sibling or anyone to cancel their honeymoon/holiday to come see me if it's been established a death is not imminent. Not the a-hole.